You can connect me anytime you like. Once after the meeting is over, and even Vidya is going to share the contact details with you after the session. I would really appreciate if you need any assistance. Today's uh, discussion is all about best Splunk. What is Splunk? I'm going to start with Splunk overview, and then give you an overview of enterprise security, where it stands, how it works, and then we can go and deep dive into the deployment and best practices around enterprise security. Okay, guys. So moving on. So uh, uh, we are, world is in today's world. Everybody is becoming a data driven, as you all must be knowing. uh, Data becoming more important, and everybody is playing around it and gain value out of it. Not only value, they are trying to automate the things around the data, so that the operations and the security around security operation, as well as the infrastructure management, becomes simpler and simpler day by day. It's not only that the technologies, if you look at it, is growing every inch you think now. Technologies, from what I mean is, technologies within mobile, take Android. Google has the whole world into Android. And if you take Apple is also using Apple OS, and Macintosh OS, where these guys are tracking their applications functionality and the vulnerabilities on the run. Splunk is now, Apple is the one of the major use case for Splunk. They are using petabytes of data, Apple, just to find out whether their apps are misbehaving anywhere, or do they need any pre actions to operate it in a functional manner, so that end users do not get any issues and face any issues. So not only that, it's around IT. It's not only IT. If you go uh, above and beyond IT, you'll find IoTs devices. They're also concerned about their security, like PLC, SCADA, used in manufacturing companies. So that is also there. So everybody is um, concerned and trying to achieve the most out of it, and that's where the challenge is. Okay. So I have explained you what is machine data. You can see data generated from different data sources. When I say different data sources, nothing is left. Every machine out there is generating data, and that's where the value lies. And the organization and C-level uh, executives, they know the value to be taken out of that data, and that's why we're becoming more data driven and towards automation as well. So when I say data, it doesn't stay with one business line of an organization. It goes into different business line. It can give you the value out of the same data relates to different business line. Here I can give you one example. So suppose, imagine you are a manager of a particular hotel industry, or uh, uh, flight ticket, booking, retail industry, whatever you think best. um, so suppose you are a manager of an hotel industry, and you receive requests from an online portal, where the big booking is happening, and you're receiving data at the backend database. There is a front end application, and then there is a middleware, and then there is a backend database where all users are, whenever they book a room, they would do it via credit card or debit card, and that details would be there with the hotel industry. And of course it's critical data, and I don't think so uh, they take it lightly. They also work around it to secure it, of course. But that details, if you see, when a user books a hotel room via online, using online portals. So if you think of the data which the hotel industry know about is the user name, credit card details, where which room he has booked, does he does he lie to any particular offerings, or the which was made earlier, or something like that. Does he have any coupons or something around it? And that should be that should be the much more details on how many days he's going to stay in a particular room. So that should be the total data they should have, right? And if you take all the flow of the data from end user till the data is getting stored in your database, and a hotel manager, as in you are viewing the data, so that should be enough data you have. But what is that you're missing? If you think of a machine data, what is that you're missing? You're missing, say, from marketing perspective, you're missing the data, like how did he explore any other rooms before he booked the particular room. You Maybe he explored two or three rooms better than this, but later on maybe might be possible that he chose the next room. So that is from my marketing point of view. If you think of the operations, IT operations side of it, their main concern is, did he face any issues while booking the room? Did he book the room like first attempt, or did he took three or four attempts to book a same room? So that is a concern point from the IT operation side of it. And if you look out from security point of view, if you look at that, so their main concern is whether that request which has been generated and booked the room, whether is that a genuine request, or it's a fraudulent request coming from a blacklisted IP address, and it's not going to be the a genuine request which has came. So that's where the as you can see, same data, and giving you multiple values from different different domains, for different domains, right, from different angles. So that's where Splunk plays a very important role, and that's why the major use case around Splunk is, they makes machine data accessible, usable, and valuable. Um, Machine data is very difficult. Difficult as in what I mean to say is, it is generated from different data sources and having different formats, variation, varieties, all these you take into consideration. And to get a value out of this data is a challenging thing. When you see a raw data in any um, uh, in any log management solution, you will find that it doesn't make any sense. As you can see here, at the left hand side, the same line of story. The user front end application, first log, then second log is generated via middleware, third log is generated by a database, and the fourth is user going to the Twitter and tweeting about the company. Different data formats, and getting a value out of this different data formats is a challenging stuff, and that's where Splunk takes that challenge, and they have made it huge uh, you know value out of the machine data, and they are known on it. And from security point of view, it's very critical that you should have a raw data in place for your legal perspective, reputation perspective, I mean to say. Okay, so those are in a right side. You can say different business lines having their major concerns listed down, and each business line can get the answers out of the same data. Okay, so as an overall, as Splunk supports major business domain around around machine data. When we talk about the data, it not only stays with, of course, now Splunk SIM is a MQ leader from last 7 years, and not only it tops in that domain, but if you go around looking at the demos around IT operation, which I'm going to give down the line below in the webinars list, I want you to go ahead and register for that as well. Maybe next week or next to next week, the webinar is scheduled around IT operations, where I will show you how Splunk predicts the requirement for any organization around network usage or the storage requirement, and how you can keep KPIs fixed in a table where critical services are monitored. Okay, so those are the major domains. Business analytics is just structured data, of course, and it's a very simple task. And down below, all the customers using those line of domains, measure in them, and each has their success stories in the use case environment. If you go into Splunk portal, you will see the success stories around each customer on these business lines. Okay, so that's about all the Splunk brief core platform. So around core platform, let me give you a little bit workflow. How does the architecture work within Splunk? So towards the left hand side, you see all the data sources sending data to indexers. Now there are different means to do that. Before I jump into this architecture, let me give you a bit about the line of software line. So Splunk has only two components within their software line. One is Splunk Enterprise, and there is another is Universal Forwarder. So let me tell you this thing. So a Universal Forwarder is a lightweighted connector, which I can say that in a simple terms. It is a connector which collects the data from n data sources and send it to the indexer. Now, Universal Forwarder is lightweighted. Why? Because it doesn't do any parsing on the end data sources, it just do collection and transfer to the indexer. It doesn't do any parsing, doesn't do any operations on the end data sources when it is installed on them. And it is always recommended. Now there are different means to collect the data, and everywhere Splunk fits in. So if you want to collect the data using scripted format, of course Universal Forwarder can run the scripts and collect the data from, say, suppose from mainframes. So you can collect that. That way you can do that, and there are multiple. Even if you want to collect the data from a Linux system, there also the Splunk Universal Forwarder can run the scripts and collect the data from. And not only scripts, the way it is, Universal Forwarder also can act as a syslog server. It can act as a TCP, UDP, both. It can monitor a particular folder, files, and there are multiple ways you can put Universal Forwarder itself. So there is that one component, small component, very niche component. You can feed anything and it can read for you and send it to indexer for analysis. Okay, that is one component. If you move to enterprise component, which is Splunk Enterprise component, now this simple one, software around 300 to 400 MB, can act as a different components in Splunk. So it can act as a searcher, it can act as an index, so it can act as a heavy forwarder as well. And it can also act as a deployment server, master. These are different components within Splunk. Of course, we're gonna discuss that in down slides in more details as we go along. So that is around okay, a universal forwarder. So once you send that to the software, I'll come back to the workflow now. Once you send the data to indexers, what indexers does is
Gaurav, sorry
yes,
to interrupt.
no problem.
Your presentation is stuck.
Sorry.
Your presentation is stuck. I do not hear you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so guys, here I've spoken about some of the data formats which we get from different application servers, and how you can turn your data into value. Here are some of the case studies where each of the modules are used within the organization of Splunk. So some of them are paid, some of them are non-paid. We discuss. We are focused more on security and compliances today. Right. This is a workflow. I'm so sorry I couldn't able to knew that I was not able to show you the whole workflow. I was like talking and couldn't able to find the messages of yours sending me. Okay, this is the workflow as in small architecture of Splunk. Please guys, I'll run through now architecture where one end is universal forwarder sending data to indexers. There are different ways universal forwarder sends data to indexer, and in indexer the data is stored in a raw format where it can be used from forensics and non-repudiation purposes as well. From indexer, search the data, search the data. Now uh, when you when you say that search the data, so how does a schema is applied? So in Splunk, they put a schema while reading the data from searcher. When you search the data, it applies the schema on the data, and you can uh, uh, map the fields there and uh, develop a schema and generate reports dashboard around it. Okay, so it is a very it's a differentiator between the Splunk and other analytic solutions. Schema on fly. Okay, and it's a real-time architecture. So we'll go to introduction of Splunk Enterprise Security. Here is the portfolio I want to go start with. In Splunk Enterprise Security is sits at the middle, where middle as in it is on the core platform, machine data platform, and mainly on the search side it will check the requirement of the Splunk Enterprise Security as well, deployment requirement. So it here it is sitting on the middle on top of enterprise platform, and around it there are different tools which complement enterprise security for better analysis. So UBA is another module within Splunk, which helps enterprise security to detect insider threats, anomaly detection, and multiple threat incidents around enterprise security. Then you can see the other component, Phantom. Phantom is a SO platform within SO is security orchestration, automation, and response platform, where you can run playbooks and design your design your workflow of incident handling and mitigation. All you can do it via single platform. So that's where we are moving now. Okay, so moving forward, it's an analytical driven sim solution. It not only gather data. That's why it's different from the normal any other sim solution. Of course, it is first sits on raw data and then gives you the value out of it to detect advanced threat and then investigate on it. You can drill down to a raw data until raw data and find out whether the incident trigger is a true positive or false positive. You can also enrich the information within the data with the threat intelligence, also with the lookups functionality within enterprise security. When I say threat intelligence, you can, it's again a uh, very different. I would say it is also threat intelligence integration is also a differentiator within Splunk Enterprise Security, I would say, because it you give any threat intelligence database in the market, any format, any structure, if it is stick stack ca, OpenISCs, excel, csv, any format, it can deduplicate. You feed everything, it can reduplicate, and it can integrate with the with your raw data and design your uh, decide on your critical incidents, and respond. It can give you responses around it. Okay, so that's where the Splunk Enterprise Security makes a difference within any organization. So this is the basic workflow of security analytics use case around SIM. As I said, it's a operation nerve center. I would say, where you have to grill down from incident investigations to uh, to a detection and remediation, where all the compliances reporting is a major functionality when we talk about a big organization where the regulatory compliances are the major concerns, and they want to comply with it, and Splunk helps there with all MITRE attack use cases, framework use cases are you can find it out. all the frameworks which are there with CIS 20 or CIS standards, security standards. Also, use cases you can find it out within content, enterprise security content, and you can go look for NIST standards as well, related use cases in enterprise security. So you can get all the frameworks, and from there you can decide which framework, and from particular framework which particular use case is more relevant to your organization, just to configure it and start using on it. So that's the feasibility which Splunk gives you to do it. So from here, from here we'll move down, deep dive. Why until now we have checked why enterprise security, and then I have given bit of before that I have given bit of Splunk core platform. Why Splunk is a machine data platform. We generally don't call it as a SIM. It is a machine data platform. And then we move towards a bit overview of enterprise security, and now I'm going towards deployment and best practices. Okay, from here, guys, I would want you to throw me any questions if you have in mind. Uh, I'll more focus towards deployment methodology. Why in the security nerve center. Uh, so how ES works now? As I said, enterprise security is a module within it, within Splunk portfolio. It sits on a full-fledged search head instance. I want you to remember that architecture while we discuss this deployment best practices. If you don't have that architecture in mind, it will be a little bit difficult for you guys to understand. Okay, so here you have enterprise security full-fledged instance sitting on the search head, running a real-time searches. So looking for or complete IOCs, correlating the data between vulnerabilities, threats, and different data sources which are running around, and gives you the platform to investigate around it. There are multiple add-ons available in splunkbase.com. So you guys might, if you guys are interested, Splunkbase is a site where you can go and look for standard data sources, as you can see at the right of the right side of the PPT, where you can go and search into splunkbase.com. Okay. There you can find all the standard data sources, and more than that, it's 1800 plus data sources which you can find. Okay, so moving ahead, so these are the basic deployment checklist. Here, let me spend a little bit time. How you have to before you plan for any SIM solution, you need to have a plan in place. I think you should do a 90% of planning before you take any decision to go ahead with any SIM solution. It is not only a component; it's a big giant tool which can prone to take it wrongly. It could fall into a hole where you can't work it out through until unless you put some effort into it. So plan this thing thoroughly. Until unless you do that, you tend to fail in that. So that's where this checklist is. So determining the size and scope of the installation. So Splunk licensing is based on the data volume generated per day, and the core platform and enterprise securities is licensed based on the same number. Now it's a number which calculates the GB GB. It calculates in GB per day. Okay, so we generally take the list of data sources from end customer and then calculate the approximate value, which tells you the volume which customer infrastructure could generate per day, and by adding some standard values in it, we propose the sizing. Okay, after that, you need to take into consideration that how many instance do I need. So will of course, now once we calculate the sizing requirement, so suppose I have a 10 GB per day licensing requirement, and I'm looking for a SIM solution. When I do that, do I need any retention policy during the same environment? Do I have to take that retention policy decision by complying to PCI DSS or ISO standard or something else, or company has its own standards to follow, and based on that you have to come up with the retention policy so that you know your storage requirement of your SIM solution. That is very important from the legal repudiation perspective, and other means as well. Okay, once after doing that, you know, you can now we can calculate the hardware specification sizing, which we're gonna look more further. We're not gonna discuss it now. Once you know hardware sizing and number of instances you need, you now then move to procure license. You can obtain it via Splunk base itself. In Splunk base, you can see all the apps which are there available. Apps and add-ons are the two components which you can see in Splunk base. Apps are nothing but the complete module which can give you reports, dashboards, and analytical platform like ES, Enterprise Security, within Splunk, and even ITSI, which is a complete IT operational module. You can find it in on Splunk base. Okay, guys, you can look at that. Once you obtain the software, now you can determine the installation prerequisites. Now this thing is done by the professionals, professional services from Splunk. And I would recommend to to use them rather than you jump into it by yourself without any trainings and all. So integration of data from different data sources and onboarding them to any SIM solution, it's a huge task, guys, and you need a good knowledge around it. So of course, now a bit of it I'm gonna tell you guys here. Okay, once you determine the prerequisites to install the software, uh, after that you need to know what apps and add-ons will be needed just to support my infrastructure. What infrastructure, what data sources I'm gonna ingest data from, and then you move towards uh, you know to implementation. So planning, again, this is all completely planning. Moving towards next. So um, as I said, ES needs a dedicated search it. It's a complete uh, package which runs the search in a real time. Uh, when I say that searching the data from search it is going to take a query to the second layer of indexer where the data is stored literally. When you search the data, the uh, the uh, the amount of resources it needs is one CPU per search. So that's why ES is search intensive, and because it's running all the correlations, rules, alerts, and reports in the same time. So that's why it needs a single search head, dedicated search head for it. Okay, all the hardware specifications, minimum requirements are given online in the Splunk documentation. However, we also recommend while designing the solution to the customer. Okay, so some in some instances where the data is high, the system requirement goes high as well. It's search intensive instance. Okay, so this is done. So this is the basic, would say minimum requirement: 64-bit OS, minimum 32 GB, 16 processor. 16 processor, as I said, one an additional memory and CPU capacity may be needed depending on the number of concurrent uses and searches. So those are the parameters to calculate the CPU capacity needed in your environment. Okay, so doing that, you'll be able to calculate the this ES. So you don't have to worry if you don't want to break your head into it. You can just install a ES health check, which I'm going to tell you in further slides, where it can calculate for you and give the current infrastructure. But that is for current infrastructure. So that is now from searchhead. We are moving to indexer. Of course, now all indexer is search intensive as well as write intensive. So we always recommend indexer because indexer is storing the data from main data sources, and searchhead is searching the data on the indexer. So it is very resource intensive instance at most. Okay, so that is the minimum example which has been given here. It is not CPU intensive, but then it is the write intensive. Mostly index is write intensive. Okay, type of amount of data being used by ES is the exact number of index required you to have around your infrastructure. So the more the data you will have. Now it depends on the in your architecture. If some of the customer have the requirement for running their instances in a cluster high available mode clustering, and you can configure enterprise security into clustering mode as well, where if one instance goes down, you have another instance functioning right for you, and there is no downtime for you. So even though if search head goes down, your data is still being written into indexer until your search head came up. So if you can take an image of your searcher and keep it, there are different values and measures you can take it out just to avoid cost on hardware, and of course it is all depend on the business side of it. Okay. Yep. So that is indexer requirement. Now we are going to the bottom layer, forwarder requirement. So uh, uh, in here we mostly focus on the security related data. I have talked about the flavors of forwarder. One is universal forwarders, one is complete instance of Splunk, which is enterprise instance, which is heavy forwarder. It can act as any forwarder. Why heavy forwarder? Heavy forwarder is needed very for particular specific cases where you want to collect the data from, like databases, all the databases. If you want to collect the audit data from databases, then you can use a heavy forwarder, because most of the DBAs don't allow to install a forwarder onto a database server, and there you can use heavy forwarder just to collect a query on the database directly and fetch the audit data. And checkpoint file is one of the case where heavy forwarder can help you. Even VMware is another case where heavy forwarder can help you there to collect the data. Okay, so for ES, some add-on, it's packaged under ES, and it ships with it. Okay, so some of the examples are given here. So add-ons are nothing but the parsers, which collects the data from end devices, and this add-ons mostly sits on indexers, where parsing is needed. Okay, indexers and search at both. Okay, so this is now the final component I would like to discuss: deployment and configuration management. So suppose there is a huge infrastructure of around thousands of servers. Each of them has one universal forwarder installed and collecting data from. And to push the configuration to each of these instances is a challenging job. So Splunk has another component called as deployment server, where it can keep a track of all the forwarders and push the configuration into this forwarders if you want to do any changes, and group them according to their technologies, so that you do not push the wrong configuration to any other data sources. Okay, so that's how deployment server can help. There is also a deployer component within Splunk, which what it does, it takes the it keeps the similar configuration within this search line of it, search it line. If you can, if the customer has a clustering enabled on the search layer, there you can use a deployer to manage and maintain the configuration of the search hits as well. Okay, so that's where now there is another component. This, if you think it as a bigger environment, you really need to know what is happening within Splunk environment itself. So Splunk has this distributed management console, which gives you the complete health of your environment, Splunk environment. It monitors its own activity via this console mechanism. However, we don't recommend to be there running parallelly with enterprise security. It should be enabled on the search it where a standalone search it, where you don't have enterprise security running on that instance. Okay. That's it. So planning again. Here I would, as I've mentioned earlier, you have one app called as Health Check, Enterprise Security Health Check, where you can deploy that app into your current environment and check whether the hardware as well as the base supporting layer for deploying enterprise security is enough, or do we need to modify it and make it better. So that is the app which can tell you directly from the prerequisite kind of. Then there is again an add-on builder which you can download again from Splunk base. This is very important from designing add-ons for non-standard data sources. If say suppose data source is not available within Splunk base and it is not SIM compliant, SIM is a common information model which on which enterprise security is standing completely. So it's a data model. On top of it, enterprise security works for generating notable events and correlated events all through. Okay, we'll discuss that more down below. Then you after that you of course prepare installation checklist. Before you do that, you have to know your sizing, whatever we have done, we've discussed earlier before slide. So what is the sizing, then what will be the instances requirement I will need, and then what will be the storage, CPU capacity, hardware requirement. After that, you come down to the collection layer. What all the data sources I have. Of course, that in while sizing itself. But then when I talk about after indexer, you have to know whether which data sources are not standard to Splunk from Splunk perspective, so that you have to take into consideration. And once that is done, you then move forward to design your operations around it. So designing roles and capabilities of the engineers working on the security operations center. Of course, trainings are the most important thing here before you start working on enterprise security, because it's a complete SIM platform, and you need to know the functionality features around it. So of course we're going to discuss that more into another webinar next to this one. I'm going to take the Splunk Enterprise Security overview, where I'll discuss the complete features of enterprise security. After that, we'll have a demo, a webinar, one more webinar where we'll have a demo around it. Okay, so data modeling, guys. Splunk enterprise security is completely depend on the SIM data model. Now, when I say SIM data model, common information model, it has the framework where all the data sources, no matter of the technology, barge into an authentication. So authentication is the main what I will how do I say this? So authentication is the main framework. Within that there are fields enabled. So if you no matter the event coming from the data source, what data source it is, if it is authentication event, it should be tagged to this authentication data model. So that's how it is. Data model has been designed around authentication, malware, and then if you go below to network, and then security, and many more different data models. You can find it online. So that's where data is classified and tagged along to trigger different alerts and correlated events within your organization. So it is completely dependent on this one, and this is also uh, a, a, a a point where you have to plan beforehand before you think on or onboarding any data. Now, this is important because if you onboard the data directly and you don't know what to do with the data, Splunk will not be able to give you value out of it. So it will be just any other data, like it's taking in. Okay, so you have to model that data to trigger different trigger and correlate the data within the Splunk. Yes, now below that there is a correlation. Of course, now when I say correlation, it is different data sources and the relation between them. Not only relation between them. Now there are multiple dependencies. If you say the data from data sources and the data, the critical assets, risk, calculation done on the assets. After calculation done, there is a threat intelligence database, which is being, it could be free, it could be, subscription based, and then, correlating together, it's a value out of SIM. That's where the value sits with the SIM. So it's all driven with finding out IOCs and the workflow around it to mitigate the same. Yep. So last but not least, this is the library. This is a free come shipped with enterprise security, where you have open library, a library where all standards, as we have discussed earlier, use cases, analytical stories, use cases, all defined here. All the use cases you will find, like, lateral movement, DDoS attacks, MITRE framework, and NIST standard or CIS standard. You tend to have a story line around it, which how it is configured, how you have to take the search into consideration, and then configure that in your environment. So those all storylines are given in here, and it's continuously getting is updated when you're using enterprise security. So you have you're in line with the trend happening around the globe. So you're updated with that, and you have use cases just to configure for you, ready, steady, available. Just have to put a little bit modification need to be done, and that's it. You can trigger dashboards, reports for your environment if it is useful for you. Okay, so important point. Again, as I said, enterprise security is leading from last 7 years because of its differentiator, which we have discussed today, and I think it will be in top down the line as well. So, guys, thank you so much. I hope you guys and I made sense from today's, and you guys you're taking something out of this webinar. Let me know if you have any questions, queries. Okay, Binde, I think is busy with another line. So thank you, guys. You can drop now. Thank you so much.